All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makakwadash. The one honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a question and a lesson, answering the question, man. Is God racist? Right? This is what it's going to be a lesson on. Answering the question, is God racist? Right? So give me 1 second, and I'm just going to go on the internet and look up what the definition of racism is, or what it means to be a racist. All right, give me 1 second, Salakia. All right, so I quickly just looked up the definition of racist, and then here's what the definition is. It says prejudiced against or antagonistic toward a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Then it goes on in the noun to say a person who is prejudiced against or antagonistic toward people on the basis of their membership of a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. So racism is having a prejudice against a particular ethnic group, right? And people like to say that Israelites are racist, right? They like to say that we're racist, but they can't really try and say that we're racist based on skin color, because they know that we say that Hebrew Israelites look like all nations, but they still try and push that. But they can't really say it, man. It don't really work, because there's multitude of Israelites all over the world that are just of their own free will, it's not of their own free will. By the Holy Spirit, they're saying exactly the same things that we're saying, and they don't look the same. There's a whole multitude of people in the world that all believe that Edomites are going to be destroyed, right? They all believe that the so-called white man is the devil, even though some of them look like him. And you can't make that up, man. You can't make that up. And that's the spirit that's caused for that to be the case. But people like to say that Israelites are racist anyway. But let's answer the question and see if God's racist, right? Let's go into the scriptures. Let's go into the scriptures and see if God is racist, right? Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that, man. This is Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 8. It says, when the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel, for Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. So is that racist for God to pick one group of people over another? Well, I would say yes. Right now, let's go to the book of Exodus. Right, because when the Egyptians had the Israelites in slavery, that was one group of people putting another group of people in captivity for the pure reason that they was a different nation. Is that racism? Yes, it is. Right? Let's read it, man. Let's read this. This is Exodus chapter 1. Let me highlight it. It's easier to see when you highlight it. 1 second. Exodus chapter 1 and verse 8. In fact, let me go up a bit. Exodus chapter 1 and verse 7. You know what? I'll go up verse 6. Exodus chapter 1 and verse 6. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. So Joseph was the Israelite that pretty much caused the Israelites to enter into Egypt and have wealth there, right? Because he became the second in command underneath Pharaoh, which was ultimately the plan of Yahweh. He was sold into captivity by his brothers, but really it was the Holy Spirit that caused him to be sold into his captivity, right? So that he could build up the Israelites, right? A portion in Egypt, and help his people escape a famine that was in their own land, right? And that's what caused the Israelites to remove themselves out of the land that was promised to us in the first place, anyway. And then when we moved out of there, another nation moved into there, right? And then we ended up removing them out again, anyway. Verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them, right? So it's pretty much like 70 Israelites that ended up becoming that. Exodus chapter 1 and verse 5. And the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob was 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already, right? So it was like 70 Israelites that turned into a mighty amount. Verse 7 again. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king of over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. So we didn't know nothing about how Joseph helped the Egyptians through a famine also themselves, right? Joseph was the one that caused for the Egyptians not to be in a famine also, right? And that's what caused him to be brought up in a higher standing, because he had the wisdom that comes from being an Israelite. Verse 9, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal with them wisely. Let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore did they set up them over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. Verse 13, which is the point. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, right? So that was racism, because they didn't do it because we was just any kind of people. They did it specifically because we was Israelites. We was a separate nation to them. That's why they did it. That was racism, and it was racism based off different nationality. It wasn't racism based on these times, based off skin color, but it was still racism, right? And let's see what Yahweh did. Exodus chapter 3 and verse 7. And Yahweh said, surely I have seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry by the reason of their taskmasters, for I know their soul. So Yahweh chose to care about the afflictions of the Israelites rather than the afflictions that I'm pretty sure the Egyptian people that are of a lower standing would have been going through some kind of afflictions under those elites of Egypt at that time. But Yahweh didn't care about that. He cared about the whole nation of Israel that was catching hell. And when Yahweh made that plague go through the land of Egypt and kill the firstborn of every Egyptian, I'm pretty sure there was poor Egyptians that also suffered that plague. I'm pretty sure there was non-elites of the Egyptians that suffered that. Yet Yahweh didn't care. So was that racist? Yes, it was. Right? Was that racist? Yes, it was, man. Now let's go to this. Let's go to this. The book of Micah chapter 1 and verse 2. I have loved you, saith Yahweh, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith Yahweh, yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau? Is that racist? Yes, it is. Right? That's racist. So when you people want to try and come at us and say that we're racist, well, let's ask you the question back. Is God racist? And if you say that he's not, then don't call us racist then. And if you say that God is racist, then don't have a complaint about us saying that God's racist, because then that makes you a hypocrite. Because if God does something, that means that we're supposed to be like that also. Right? If God's got a nation of people that he hates, then that means that we're supposed to hate that nation also, because we're supposed to hate who hates the Lord, and we're supposed to hate who the Lord hates. Verse 3, and I hated Esau and laid his mountains in heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Isn't that racist for God to make the dragons of the wilderness, like make Esau's heritage become a wilderness? And he's going to really do it when Babylon the Great gets destroyed. Right? That's really going to be a wilderness forever, man. Because they stole this land from the Native Americans who were the tribe of Gad. But they're going to still have this land destroyed anyway, man. This is the glory of Esau. This is the glory of their kingdoms, man. This is the greatest kingdom that Esau's ever had and ever will have. Verse 4, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we return and build the desolate places. So this is Esau's version of BLM, man. this is Esau's version. E lives matter. This is Esau's version of that, man. Build back better is Esau's version of of BLM. You know, that's Esau's version. They like to try and make jokes and mock us and all of that, and talk all that we was Kangs talk. But you Edomites, right? You slimy Idumeans are the real ones that run around the whole earth trying to make out like you was everything. It might be a movie about the Great Wall of China. You're in there. It might be a movie about some ancient African thing, some ancient Hamite nation. You're the head of that. You're the image. It might be something about the last samurai. It's gonna be you there. You know, it might be a movie called Black Panther, but somehow a Edomite's in there somehow connected to the salvation going down somehow or some way, man. Or they're complaining about everything. Jokers, man. These Edomites are so demonic, right? That they'd even complain that there's no Edomites in your family photos, in your childhood pictures growing up, in your family portrait, man. They'd complain that why is there no Edomite characters in there? Which just by saying that word these days, the thing's liable to get collapsed off, man, and taken down, man. Because these people are weak, man. Verse 4, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh have indignation forever. Is that racist? For him to have indignation against the people forever? I think it is. And if it is, then don't say nothing to us about it then. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite then, right? And if God's racist, then I guess it's not a bad thing to be racist then, is it? Romans chapter 9 and verse 11. For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So Yahweh hated the Edomites just because he wanted to, because they didn't do anything bad for him to originally hate them. Neither had the Israelites did anything good for him to originally love them. He just decided to love one and hate the other. There was literally no difference in their births. There was no difference between the birthing of the Israelite nation and the birthing of the Edomite nation. They literally had exactly the same lineage up until they came out of their mother's womb. They got literally exactly the same lineage. That's what people don't understand. The Edomites and the Israelites have got literally exactly the same genealogy after them. Before them. The Israelites and the Edomites have got exactly the same everything growing up before they came out their mother's womb, man. Everything before them is exactly the same. Isaac, Abraham, Abraham's father, Abraham's father's father, everything, all the way going back to Seth, everything, man. All the way going back to Shem. Everything's the same. The only difference is that Yahweh decided he's going to love one and hate the other. And the reason for him doing that was because he wanted to. Right? And when you really break it down to that way, it lets you know that that's racist. But guess what? So what? Verse 14, what shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. God is not unrighteous for being racist. And guess what? Neither are we, if we are, man. Because ours isn't like what this carnal world is. Ours is based on we love everyone that's an Israelite, man. Of any skin tone. Especially those that believe in the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. But anybody else, they ain't making it anyway, man. It wouldn't matter whether we did love them or not. They ain't making it anyway. Surely you'd rather the Lord love you than little old us that ain't got nothing anyway. What's our love really worth, man? Nothing. The Lord's love, though, is worth a lot. And Esau doesn't have a connection to that, man. He don't have that. Now let me jump down. Romans chapter 9 and verse 22. What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto glory. Right? So that's racist then, right? Because he made them to destroy them. That's the only reason why he made them, so that he could make his power known. They hadn't did nothing bad for him to hate them, but he just always hated them. He just always hated them before they was born, man. And that's what a lot of people don't want to. That's a tough pill for a lot of these people to swallow, man. Because they can't handle that. They can't handle the thought of that, man, because they're carnal. But simple and plain, if people want to always keep calling us racist, well, let's ask the question, is God racist? And I clearly showed in the scriptures, yes, he is, man. He don't love everybody, right? He don't love everyone, man. And in fact, let's go to this, because this is the ultimate form of showing that God is racist. But people get emotional about that and they go and cry, right? They try and flag it down and get it removed or whatever. Or they try and thumbs down it or whatever they want to do. But they can't accept this. Or they think that it's a bad thing that they're calling God names, right? Because they don't know the scriptures really, man. Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh have spoken it. Is that racist? For there to be not any remaining of the house of Esau? Is that racist? Is that wait? Is that racist? What version is that? What version are you reading? You know, what are these people talking about, man? What version is that? What? Wait, Oba what? Oba what? You know, Obadiah, the first chapter and the 18th verse. That King James version. That's what version it is, man. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh has spoken it. Is that racist? Is it? Is that racist, man? Is this racist? Let's wait a second, man. Wait a second, brothers. Let's ask, is this racist? Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 10. For this is the covenant that I'll make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I'll put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I'll be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. Is that racist for God to only give that to the Israelites? Is that racist? And let's ask another question. Is this racist? Right? Because everyone wants to try and put labels on the Israelites, right? But then they don't feel comfortable putting the same labels on Yahweh or the same labels on his son, when you can clearly see that these same things could be applied to them, right? And if they're not wicked when they do it, then neither are we when we do it, right? Unless, of course, you people want to show yourself to be hypocrites. Matthew chapter 15 and verse 24, but he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Is that racist? Is that racism from Yahweh Shai? To say he's not sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel? Matthew chapter 10 and verse 5. These 12 Yahweh Shai sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Is that racism? He's telling them, don't go to no heathens. Wait a second. Let's read a bit, because we've read the Bible a bit, right? We know the scriptures. Let's read this. John chapter 4 and verse 22. Ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Is that racist? To say that salvation is only going to the Jews? Is that racism? Interesting. That's real interesting, man. Because it's almost like people ain't read the scriptures for real, you know? Joel chapter 2 and verse 32, and it shall come to pass that whoever shall call upon the name of Yahweh shall be saved. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, and Yahweh have said, and in the remnant whom Yahweh shall call. Is that racism? Was it racist that King David put the nation of Edom in slavery, but was still dealing with their women? Was that racist? You know, was King David a man after Yahweh's own heart? Was he? Like, these people in this world, they want to talk all this talk, man, but ultimately they don't know what they're talking about, man. They don't know. Is this racist? Right? Is this? Wait a second, man. With Salakia, 1 second, brothers. Is this racist? Let's read this. Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. And Yahweh will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy power with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And Yahweh thy power put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. Is that racist? That Yahweh is going to give the Israelites a circumcised heart and their children, right? So that they can love Yahweh with all their heart and live. But he's also going to put the curses on their enemies, which are going to be the other nations. Is that racist? Let's get some more. Because people, they really like to talk, man, but they don't really know what they're talking about. Psalm chapter 2 and verse 8. Ask of me, And I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Is that racist for God to tell us to ask him to give us a heathen for our inheritance? Is that racist? Is it? What about this? Revelation chapter 2 and verse 25. But that which ye have already, hold fast till I come, and he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall it be broken to shivers, even as I have received of my Father. Is that prejudice? Is that racist? Is that he's going to rule over the other nation with a rod of iron? Is that sounds a bit, that sounds a bit strange to me. What about this? Daniel chapter 7 and verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. What's that? Because that don't sound too pally to me, That sounds a bit, what I mean? That sounds a bit. This is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So one kingdom is going to break in pieces another kingdom, because they're not of a certain nationality also, is why this is going to be happening. So what is that then? When God told the Israelites to slay the Canaanites, what was that? Why did he tell them to do that? Because they were Canaanites. That's why he told them to do it. When he told the Israelites to never forget what Amalek did, what was that? What was it? And this is just a lesson, me showing the hypocrisy of a lot of these people, man. That they can't really grasp the depth and the glory of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, man. They don't understand the love that Yahweh has for the Israelites in general, that even though he's going to make a lot of them receive gruesome and brutal deaths, they're still going to get the kingdom anyway afterwards, man. But the same's going to know it after death by pain, and then they're going to receive it to everlasting shame and contempt. But this point is that they're still going to receive it, though. Because ultimately, as according to as the scriptures have said, Yahweh's found all of us unbelieving at one point. And because of that, he's going to show mercy upon all Israelites. Right? And I'm going to end the lesson there. All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Ba'Shem Makar Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the nation of Israel. Shalom.